welcome to Journeys into Being, a new show co-produced by Amherst Media. My name is Renata Sylvia Pienkawa, and I'm your host. This program will focus not on doing, but on being, not on accomplishments, but on the joy of being fully present, not on what many people call success, but on our ability to be in flow, to be connected to each other and to the world through our very presence. Our first guest is Deborah Wilson, a known holistic practitioner in Hampshire and Franklin counties. She knows a great deal about being in the moment, being present, and truly listening to one's intuition. Please welcome Deb Wilson to our first episode of Journeys into Being.
Hi everybody, I'm Deborah Wilson. I currently live in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us. Our program is about being, not doing so much. And just to ease us into the process of interviewing you, what object did you bring with you today that would reveal something important about you?
This is very exciting. So, when I saw your question about to bring an object, there's so many possibilities. I decided I would really sit with it, reflect, meditate, and it didn't take long. Something came to me, an image came to me, and it was an image of an object that we used to have on our altar for years and years, but all of the items from our altar were packed away in our storage unit. So I got a new one, but it's pretty much identical. But it is a bamboo. I want to just show you. Of course, it's it's a bamboo flute.
Beautiful.
And the reason this came to me, well, many reasons. I love this image of a flute. But what came to me in reflection was to bring a hollow reed. And I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to get a hollow reed, but then the image of the flute being hollow and being of nature and beautiful. So to me it represents nature, it represents my connection to nature, our interconnection with nature, trees in particular, bamboo. But most importantly, it represents being the hollow reed, which to me is my related to my current goal. So this is what the reveal is. My current goal is, you're going to laugh, it's to be a nobody. And I just want to clarify that, because when people hear that, they sometimes think of that I'm they associate maybe with being a doormat or being self-deprecating or being kind of worthless, and that's not it's not at all what I mean. But being a nobody, instead of having an ambition to be a somebody, to have an identity, to have success, worldly, in the worldly eyes, to have a name, to be a body, to be identified as the body. Anyway, that's what this object needs to be.
So beautiful, and it fits in with our mission to focus on the being, not the doing, not the performing, not the images, but the actual moment of being here together. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question has to do with actually two things. So you said you are from Western Mass right now, but originally, where did you come from? And that's connected to that is also how does your background or backgrounds inform who you are?
So one of my spiritual teachers, Sai Baba, would ask this question, where are you from? And the answer he was looking for was not your hometown or your family's background. It was from the oneness, from the place that we're all connected. And some people might call it heaven, some people might call it God. So that's really my answer, is that's where I'm from. If you're curious about this body's background, then I'm a local right here, born and raised right here in Western Massachusetts. I've lived in, I think, only 5 different towns my whole life. My 60 this body's 60 decades, 6 decades. Amherst, Belchertown, Pelham, Shutesbury, and Greenfield. So pretty interesting to have not moved around very much.
And those towns that you lived in, were they very different from one another? Did they teach you different things, or was it pretty much all the same because it's Western Mass?
This, I feel like this location is so beautiful. It has so many places of nature. It has mountains, although they're small. Probably people who are really from the mountains call these hills. It has woods, a place, lots of streams and waterfalls. It's, I've traveled a lot, and this is one of the prettiest places on the planet. So all of those places have that in common, but the slight flavor of each of those towns, Belchertown, very working class, small town. Amherst, college town, lots of hustle and bustle with college students, lots of international flavor, lots of international students. Shutesbury up in that feels like Vermont, even though it's contiguous with these 2 towns. It feels like, we lived on a dirt road, surrounded by trees, feeling very far away from very, very rural, even though we were 5 miles away from Amherst Center. Greenfield is also a very different feel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And since we're talking in this program about being, how are you being in this life, in this area, in these towns, versus just doing things in life? I know you're connected to nature and animals, and how are you being in life? And then we can expand a little later when we talk more about your calling, but right now maybe just about the being versus doing.
To me, it's a way of life. At some point, I had to confront my to-do list and realize that I was completely attached to it, addicted to it. It was like my second brain. I was carrying it around with me, compulsively adding to it and planning my day based on it, and planning planning my day based on my to-do list, but also didn't feel good if I didn't get things on my to-do list. At the end of the day, I would base how I felt based on that to-do list. It also was a cause of lots of stress in my body, feeling I'm carrying around all of this responsibility that might not even be mine to carry, or mine to carry in that moment. It might be mine to do in the future. I have lots of stories. I'll share this one briefly. I was in North Carolina recently for a whole month visiting my son and mom, and other family members. And I got it into my head that I felt guided that I was going to start a membership for people who wanted to work with me, but in a more like group setting, online, maybe lower cost. And this person that I studied with was going to offer a training that he only does once a year. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to sign up for it. This is something I'm going to do. So I launched in. I started taking his classes. I hadn't signed the dotted line where you have to pay the money, but he had a preliminary class that he was offering in order to give people a taste, in order to get them to sign up. And day 3, while we were down there, I was getting in the car with Bryce, my husband, and I remember thinking, I'm in this beautiful location. We weren't exactly on vacation because it was a working trip. I was working, and obviously here was a big work project. But so I tuned in to myself, my body, and it felt like I was leaking energy. So I said, Deb, I said to myself, what's causing this leak of energy? Where are you leaking energy in your life? So I kind of did a life scan. And the first thing I always go to is relationships. Anywhere in my relationships, I mean, everything's relationship, right? But in my family, friends, client relationships, people relationships, anything causing, a leak. And nothing came. And then I said, all right, work. And then this membership popped up. And the little voice, my soul, or the voice said, yeah, you're going to be doing memberships, but not currently. It's in the future. Bring yourself back to present and just be, and let that project go. You have your project. Your assignment was, I was going to write some of my book down there, and I was going to schedule a Path of the Healer year-long training, and just get that on the calendar. So coordinate with the people who are interested and get it on the calendar. And that was it. And that, in my mind, that wasn't enough, right? That was too small. And so this is, to me, an illustration of being versus doing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So that brings us to the next question. We know you have a calling in life, and how has this calling, or different kinds of calling in your life, how have they changed through the years? Was it always one calling, or were there different callings? And how have your focus on your calling changed through the years?
I think my calling has always been the same. And that calling is hard to articulate. My go-to language, my common way I describe it is helping. Touching my mic again. Is experiencing wholeness, helping others experience their wholeness, and practicing seeing people in their wholeness. And that means not just individuals who come to me, but also world events. That's my calling. And so it's taken many different forms, but I don't think the calling itself has changed. The forms may have changed in how I help people. Like for a while I was doing massage therapy and helping people through that form. Then I was living at Sirius Community, a spiritual community, spiritual eco-village, and helping people who came there and helped mentor them, and was teaching meditation and daily spiritual practice, and connecting with nature, and then later having this private practice and teaching workshops and trainings. So it's the same calling, just different forms.
Wonderful. Thank you. This is maybe a question you already answered, but besides this calling, what are some most other essential things in your life? Is there anything outside of the calling that is also very crucial to you or essential?
I'm gonna ask a clarifying question, because I think, in which you may cut this out because it's a clarifying question. It's not gonna serve the audience here, but I think you asked me on the list you sent me, so I want to make sure I'm answering the same question. Like, what's most essential in your life? Is that
Yes.
the same question?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But you were saying that, this is an all-permeating theme, the other
Yes.
one. So, yeah, if you could be a little bit more specific about maybe other things that are essential.
Yeah. So when I sat with that question at home, what is most essential to me? I wasn't sure how to get there, because I just had answered about the calling. But I thought, so I just sat and reflected for a little while. I did ask myself some questions, but I'm not going to repeat those. But what came to me was relationships. And when I was early on, I stumbled across this calling. I knew I was meant to help people and have a more contemplative life. And I didn't think I was going to have I thought, yeah, a monk out in nature or in a cave or a monastery. I didn't think I was going to be surrounded by so many people and have such a big family, having 5 children, living in a community with 30 other adults and many other children, having so many clients and friends that who all feel like family to me, or many feel like family to me. They all would if they would have me. So that was a surprise, and that I think that is on purpose. I think that I am here to revel in relationships. So that really is, I think, what's kind of the most essential ingredient of my life right now.
Awesome. So you said 30 people, like you were living in a community. Can you tell us a little bit about the community?
Yeah.
And how long did you live in that community for?
So I lived at a Sirius community in Shutesbury, Massachusetts for 25 years. And we had, I think at the peak of those 25 years, we had somewhere in the high 30s, 38, 39 adults living there, and 10, 12 children. But it averaged over the years to about 30 adults and, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 children. So sometimes there were just my 5 kids. Well, in the latter years that we were there, many of my kids moved away, at least my oldest 2. And then others moved away. So,
and why did you leave?
It was definitely a calling to move there, and it was definitely a calling. It was like time to go. There was never an expectation. People would ask us, "Oh, are you going to be here for the rest of your life?" And we were like, "That's planning, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're here as long as we feel called to be here, or until we feel called to move," and we did.
So the next question might be good at this point too. What are the most important lessons in life that you have received, or I don't know.
So many.
That wasn't on the list, right?
It wasn't, well, and there's many. There's many. It's pretty interesting that I look back and I feel like I've wrestled with a lesson for, and it always in my mind is like a year. I will even tell my students, I practiced this, I was learning this lesson and I practiced it and put it into application for about a year. Who knows if that's exactly right, but because I don't know, I never, I didn't track it on a calendar, but it always felt like that. It was many months. It could have been 2 years. It could have been only 9 months, but one of them was, this story comes to me, and I was actually trying to block it out because I'm like, no, that's too long of a story. It keeps coming back. One of them was in somewhere around 1997. I had my first introduction to my ego. I was at Sirius Community, the spiritual community Eco Village, and at the time we were playing with doing universal services on Sunday. So because we were a spiritual community, but we were eclectic. We didn't have one spiritual practice. We didn't have one religion. We didn't have a teacher, although we had some leaders. So we were having this universal service where we would take turns leading the service and bring our own flavor to the service, and we would try to enlist other community members to come by inviting them to bring a song or a poem or play their guitar or on a theme. So I was asked to bring a poem for a certain theme, and so I'm notoriously late. Getting better. Today I was on time.
Yes.
Getting better. But so I look at my clock on Sunday morning. I'm like, oh no, I gotta get out the door. And I'm running out the door and then remember, oh no, I'm supposed to bring a poem. I had 5 kids. I was very busy, had this community, had lots of responsibility. So I didn't have time. I didn't prepare. So I'm raced back to my bookshelf and I'm like, all right, Spirit, you select the poem or the reading. So I grab a book, open up. I'm like, you do it. And I, pray and open up. Of course, I'm in a hurry. And I read to the open page, shut the book, put it back. I do this 5 times. And I finally get to one. I'm like, I guess this is good enough. Race to the community center and get into the circle and we meditate. And the woman who's leading the meditation guides us in this beautiful meditation where she says you're going to see or be introduced to something that represents your current life challenge. And I saw this haggard old woman. She was bent over, gray hair. She had the stockings that were kind of falling down, this kind of smock, frumpy. And she's pulling this wagon. And I'm laughing. And she looks like she's carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. She's rounded, And so I'm laughing and I said, oh my God, that looks like me. Yes, with all these kids and all these responsibilities, weighted down by the world. And then the woman who's leading the meditation, she says, now you're going to be presented with the solution to the problem or the key or the teaching. And I hear this small voice, right, my inner guide, my soul, say, that's your ego. I'm like, what? That's my ego? I'm thinking ego's, like puffed up like the guy on the beach or the girl on the beach in a bikini. I'm like, I had no idea that could be ego. I'm like, I don't get it. Can you help me? Explain. The voice says, it's always very clear and short messages, right? Very simple. It says, you think you're the doer. I still couldn't get it. I'm like, okay, explain some more. Very simple. This morning, at the bookshelf. Bagged! That was my first meeting with my ego. So that whole year I practiced, I am not the doer. I am not the doer. I am not the doer. So that's one such lesson. I have lots of them, and I don't think I'm going to enumerate them all now, but I could give you a little taste.
Thank you. That's definitely something we often don't think about, that could be the ego. The ego is usually most people's minds, I think, the puffed up persona. I think we did ask a lot of kind of being questions, but I think maybe our viewers would like to, and listeners would like to know a little bit more about how you are helping people in the community. You know, what do you offer? What are some of the so-called practical things that you offer? And of course, I mean practical in a traditional sense, because the most practical is really to be present, and you were talking about this over and over again. But in terms of the practical, in a sense, like what, you know, can anyone connect with you? You know, how can you help them? Just a little bit more about what you could offer someone who is interested to learn from you.
So I offer private one-on-one sessions. I don't know why I said private, but yeah, individual sessions for individuals, for two people. Could be any two people in a relationship. They could be a couple. They could be a romantic couple, or married, or partnered. They could be sisters, mother-daughter, co-workers. I've worked with boards of directors. I've worked with family-run businesses to help them so I have two main focuses. I mean, I'm helping people return to their wholeness, right? Which is, you can sum up with, in another way, by helping them return to natural states of health, vitality, creative power, joy, and the two forms that takes is, you know, what might look like healing, alternative healing, or energy healing, unlocking the subconscious and the subconscious beliefs that are creating disease. Or also, the other way it can look is helping people with relationships, how to renew and bring harmony to their relationships.
And you do that through Zoom or face-to-face in your office, right? Is that?
Yes, those are or by phone.
By phone.
I also want to work with groups. You know, I did for a long time have in-person healing group, and then it went online, but want to renew that probably in both ways, in person and online. And I also love teaching workshops and training programs.
Oh, wonderful. We'll place your website link on our at the end in the credits, so they can find out more. Well, we did ask our questions, you know, that we sent you, and a couple of extra. I have a couple more if you are willing to answer those. Can you share one strategy for someone who is totally frantic into doing, as so many of us are, and, you know, for being? How could you switch those gears to move from the doing mode and the ego mode into more being mode, and being appreciative and present for one's life and the life of one's loved ones?
So there are many practices: meditation, being in nature, nature immersion, or just a hike in nature. And I say that some people will go and they'll hike, to get exercise, but I mean like stopping to smell the roses. So you're hiking and you're taking in the beauty and you're feeling the connection. So meditation, being in nature, a yoga practice, a qigong practice, again, not the kind of exercise we do in the gym. Any of those can be, you can turn any of those into yoga or qigong by using breath and intention. So those are some good ways to practice, get a sense of what it feels like to be. In relationships, to practice presence, listening, rather than, thinking how you're going to respond. Really listening, trying to understand the person. Just trying to be, think of the biggest gift I'm giving them is being present. If it's your kid or your husband or your spouse or your partner, what a gift to just be present with them. Get off your phone. So those are some practices. I also there's a little teaching I could mention, but I don't know if you want me to go there.
We have time still. Go ahead.
Okay. So there's also this teaching that may help, and it is, usually I teach it by demonstrating, so I'm going to modify it a bit. So most people, see if you agree with me, most people flip between on and off throughout the day. And when they're on, they are stressing, striving, struggling, seeking. When they're off, they're disconnected, they're distracting, they're, scrolling,
Mm-hmm.
or shopping, or game playing, or daydreaming, fantasizing, or going for their drug of choice, right? Sugar, sex, weed, alcohol, it doesn't matter. The scrolling is the same as going for the alcohol, the drink after work. Those are all what I call the off switch. So at first, when I was doing yoga, by yoga I mean the whole practice. So not just asanas, not just exercise, but meditation, asanas, reading, the whole, trying to put the health practices into place. At first, I thought I was looking for balance, right? So in meditation, we need to really, really, really relax, but we can't relax so much we fall asleep, right? We have to also stay up. We have to concentrate. We have to, there's this flame or the body sensation where we're concentrating on, we're focusing. So we have to concentrate, we have to stay awake, stay alert, and relax. So I thought, it's finding a balance. When I'm in a yoga pose, and I did Hatha yoga, which I think now is closer to yin yoga. So we would get into this crazy pretzel pose, and we have to hold it. So we have to get strength, and we have to watch our alignment, and then relax and drop in and open and stretch. And so I thought, again, this is balance. I'm seeking balance. Later on, I figured out it's not about balance. There's a whole third mode of being. Once you kind of sit in the tension between these two, this on and off mode, and sit in the tension between these two, you think you're looking for balance, but just sit with the awareness of these on and off, or stressing, striving. You know, in the yoga, it's power, right? I have power. You know, I have to use my strength, or this off, this relaxation. And by hanging out between these two poles, these two opposing qualities, a third way will reveal itself, this other consciousness. And this consciousness, this third way, is what we're talking about, is this being. It's a whole third way of doing it. So when I demonstrate in my arm, like it's a Qigong demonstration, I demonstrate this is the striving mode, the doing mode, and it actually is cutting off our energy. If we think of energy meridians running through our body. So it's at some point, someone's going to be able to open my arm. If there's going to be, you can't hold this forever. And then there's the collapsed, arm, right? That's very weak, because there's no energy flowing. So how do we get to that? All right, so we moving all day like this, and then we collapse, or we want to scroll, right? This is the collapse mode. So what I will demonstrate is, so we shake out our arm, and it's great if you have a second person do this, not yourself, but that's okay, I'm going to demonstrate. So you shake out your arm and you get it nice and loose, right, and relaxed, but it's showing up. It's not collapsed. It's got structure. It's showing up. It's engaged. It's alert and awake and energized, but it's relaxed. All the muscles are soft, and we allowing the energy to flow through it like a flute. And someone could come and hang off my arm, and I could hold this for a long, long, long time. I can't hold this for a long, long time. So this represents being. This represents how I strive to live. I'm not successful all the time, but
this is wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's like being. So being present means being intentional and breathing, and even doing a little bit, but not to the point of cutting off the energy flow. Is that?
At first, we're going to bring our doingness to the practice. We're going to bring our doingness to the breathing, right? And, okay, I'm breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm meditating, but we're still like this.
Right. Okay.
Which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that that's what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and keep doing it anyway, and that feel that tension between, okay, I don't want to just meditate and fall asleep, but if I'm trying to stay awake, and then it feels a little like I'm stressing, just stay between those two poles, and the magic will happen. There's if you're aware of these two poles, and that's all you can do, that's success. I so many people come to me and say, oh, I tried to meditate and I can't meditate, or I failed, or I was not very good. There's no grading scale for meditation. You show up and you sit. If you're even lying in bed meditating, if you're sitting on the floor, you're sitting on your cushion, doesn't matter where. If you're walking in nature, doing a walking meditation, doesn't matter where. If you have the intention to meditate, you get an A+.
Awesome. Well, you may disagree or you may agree, but a lot of people I talk to feel that our planet energetically or presently is going through a lot, and we were just talking before that some of us who are functioning still not too badly in this world, have often many people who come to us to rely on us. Like you were showing that this in-between state, you could put a lot of weight and it could carry all that weight. Do you sometimes feel that too many people, needy people, are hanging on to you? And is that something you can deal with, that you welcome, or that sometimes even for you it's too much if many of your kids or neighbors or clients keep calling for help? How do you cope with that and still be in that present moment, in that being mode, or is it, if you're in a being mode, you can carry the whole world and it's okay? So, what do you think?
My story about the that's your ego, which because you think you're the doer, really said it all. I felt burdened. I had so much responsibility. I was caring for these 3 kids, and then, in my vision, I had a whole slew of kids, right? Because they had their friends too with them, and they wanted them to come, and the community had kids, so that I might be watching all the community kids, but I also had duties at the community, and I also had a house to clean, and we shared cooking, which was nice. But that year, if it was a year of practicing, I am not the doer, really freed me. I felt like I went from carrying the world on my shoulders and the bricks and relationships burdened to like, oh, it's not mine.
To carry.
There's a eternal, endless spring that I'm attached to, that can feed everyone. It feeds me, but I can be a conduit for to pass it on. But I get to drink. I get to drink from it first.
Wonderful.
So because I get to drink from it first, it doesn't ever feel like a burden too.
Do you ever get frustrated when you're offering to people that drink from that source and people don't see it in themselves or in front of them?
No, I just see myself as my younger self who wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
I have one question, and it's something to do with aging.
Mm-hmm.
Is how do you see yourself aging? I don't know what that means. You've got a wonderful, perhaps, example of your mom, but.
Mm-hmm. So, because I less and less identify with the body, I feel ageless. I feel more and more identified with the ageless, eternal being that I am. And the body's aging it's like nature. It's like my favorite trees. Looks like it's starting to fade, or my favorite dog just passed away because of age. So this body will. I'm already starting to mourn my grandmother. She's 106. She's still vacations. She still walks with a walker, but she still walks. She has all her faculties. She still plays cards with us. She listens to books on tape because her eyes are going. Her ears are going, but she still have a conversation. We'll think that she's not listening and she'll chime in so she can hear. So I'm already starting to mourn her body, but I know that her immortal or eternal soul will still be around. So the same with this body; it will eventually age, and I'm just gonna enjoy it. I mentioned before that to help people, to bring them back to their wholeness, which is back to this knowledge of this eternal, of who they truly are, this eternal soul. But also to help them return to natural states of health, vitality, joy, creative power. Because all of those are soul qualities. But the body can, when the body isn't burdened with all the things that the ego wants, if the ego thinks it's the doer, and then the body, right? I looked like I was 70 and I was only in my 30s when I had that vision of myself, because I was this hunched, I looked like an old woman in a frock and her baggy stockings. And gray hair and frizzy hair. And that's how I felt. I felt like I was in my 70s. And with the burdens lifted, I feel like I'm a teenager sometimes, right? I'm climbing in the rock gym, climbing walls, and I'm doing yoga poses, and I'm hiking up mountains. And I took my mom. My mom asked me when we were visiting, she said, Deb, have you ever been, I don't know if it was paragliding or something gliding, something gliding. And I said, no, Bryce has, but I haven't. And she said, I want to get over she's in her 80s, I want to get over my fear of heights. I said, how about zip lining? Mm-hmm. So I took her zip lining. The last time we were there, we went zip lining. You have to climb, up many, you have to come to these towers to, and she's like, oh, I didn't realize we had to. But she, I was like, take it slow, Mom. So just grateful that this body can do it, but I think that it's unburdened is really the secret.
Wow.
Well done.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think we're coming to an end of this wonderful session. Thank you for teaching us, for talking about your path. Is there anything else you would like to add to today's conversation?
I think you asked that, sent it to me in the questions, and my last thought was to give people a reminder to love themselves, and by that I mean, because that has a lot of different connotations, by that I mean not baby yourself, but remember your worth, love yourself. By loving yourself, I mean to value and honor yourself, know your worth, to listen to yourself, to listen to your body, because your body will tell you. If you can't access your intuition, then your body will give you messages. You walk into a room and your body's like, maybe it's good to leave the room. Try and listen to your intuition and really listen and honor that your inner knowing. That's my message to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been an honor to listen to you, and we hope you'll come back for another session at some other point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata and Karen.
Thank you.
It's been a joy, a pleasure.